So good morning, it's another day in the garage. These days seem to pass so quickly, and although I'm making progress, it's never quite as quick as you'd think it's going to be. Anyway, let's do a quick recap on yesterday. Clutch lever, choke lever, connected up the clutch cable. Yeah, got the bracket the wrong way around, realised that, bracket the right way around, clutch is now operating, that's great. Also worked on the front brakes, so fitting the lever, etc., and fitting the handguard on that side, and then fitting the calipers. Also prepped the radiators and the radiator grills, so they're ready to go on, and that is the next job this morning. But a couple of little jobs I've done as well, which is the oil pressure and neutral switch wire harness. Fitted that, routed that up. Also fitted a couple of little guide brackets. So I found the guide bracket for the upper fork bracket that I was looking for. So that's now fitted, and then I've fitted a guide bracket on the side of the engine case as well. So, you know, when I talk about it like that, actually, yeah, I've got loads done. But anyway, let's crack on today. Next job is cooling system. So it's going to be radiators on, radiator fan fitted, and expansion chamber fitted. So let's crack on and do that. Right, so after a fair bit of prep work off camera, finally at the point now where I can fit the radiators. So part of the prep work that was the biggest time consumer was rearranging all the main wiring loom, throttle cables, choke cables, etc. coming through here to get as flat a profile as possible. So I basically routed the choke cables over the top, which was wrong, they're now underneath. Throttle cables run underneath the main harness as well. And now we're just at a point where we can get the radiator on, but it's incredibly tight. Now when I started refurbing the bike, I did notice the main wiring loom was routed under here, under this upper radiator mounting, which is incorrect, but I understand why they did it now, because it's very, very difficult to get this radiator in position otherwise. Anyway, I think I'm in a position to do it now, so let's have a go. I'm using a bit of Vaseline on the pipes just to make them slip onto the radiator easier. I've pre-installed the Jubilee clips on both these pipes so I don't forget, and I've got all the bolts ready to install. So yeah, let's do it. So this is the left-hand radiator unit. We've got all the rubber bushes and the top hats in there, and it's basically ready to go on. So we'll just install the lower pipe first. Bit of Vaseline on the outside of there just to ease the passage. So lower pipe in position. Upper coolant pipe. I don't know if this one will be easier now or later, but seems to be going on okay. So that's the main two. Like I say, Jubilee clips are there. I'll tighten those up shortly. Right, there we go. That is in position. So there's another aperture on the top here, I don't know if you can see it. Put my hand behind it, sticks up, and there'll be a matching one on the other side, and then there's a balance pipe goes over the top. We'll fit that once we've got both radiators on. But that's it, apart from fitting the grille, which I'll do in a second. That's the left-hand radiator fitted. Okay, left side radiator fitted, right hand side radiator going on now. Okay, so the rearward facing bolt is in and loose. Okay, there you have it. Three fixing bolts in for the radiator. Three bolts fastening in, two main hoses on. So all I've got left to do now is, as I mentioned before, on the top of there, you've got a balance tube connector, goes across to here. We'll fit that next, and then from here, you've got a long tube that comes back to the expansion tank at the rear of the bike. So we'll fit that next. Just before finalising all the cooling system pipes, I realised that I'd forgotten about the fan. So this is the rad fan going on. Not straightforward, it has to be said, quite fiddly, but a job that needed to be done, so here we were. Okay, so that's the fan positioned. We'll just get the wiring connected up now. So the wiring needs to come up here. This is the, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Yeah. So this is the connection for it. So I've got to work the wiring up the back there somewhere. Show what the best route for that is. So that's it, the fan's in, all connected. I was a bit of a pig actually routing the wires through. But yeah, connected to the fan switch down here, thermo switch in the radiator, but fan switch. Also an earth tag, ground tag on the back, and then 2-pin connector up the top. Final tighten on these outer bolts. The only easy bit about it. Okay, fan installed. So down the back end of the bike, still working on the cooling system. So on here is going to be the expansion tank, overflow reservoir, whatever you want to call it. It's a bit easier to fit this first, so I'm going to get the regulator rectifier in position, and then we'll fit the expansion tank around that. We'll get it all connected up. Okay, so regulator rectifier in position and all the connections made, cables tidied, etc. Next thing is the reservoir. So that's mounted. And we need to fit the pipes on it, so we'll do that next. Okay, so oil cooler, I've given it a light refurb, so it's had a paint just to make it look respectable. Let's position this accordingly. O-rings are pre-positioned where the pipes go in there. And then we're going to slip these two bolts in here. Okay, tighten those up in a sec. Just ensure that these are in the right place and engaging. Okay, so in there, so we've got a plate that goes over the two oil cooler connections, and then we've got two bolts here that support the pipes as they run along the lower edge of the engine, and then we've got the two main bolts that hold the radiator assembly in position. So we're just going to tighten all those up now, making sure the O-rings are in place, everything's in place down there, and then that'll be that. So with the oil cooler in place, I just whipped round, tightened up all the bolts, and that was that, done. This plate holding the pipes in, yes, I'd fitted it the wrong way round, I reversed it later. So, onto the exhaust. So we've got a couple of these things, exhaust gaskets to fit in there. The rear one is sitting in there quite nicely. The front one won't sit in, so I'm just going to have to try and feed that on as I feed the exhaust on. So it's quite a fiddly job. Feed that on, try and get a couple of nuts on the rear one first, because that's the easier one to work with, and then we'll look at manoeuvring the bracket up on the front one, and we'll look at tightening it all up. I've done quite a lot of work on cleaning this exhaust up. I'm quite pleased with it. Let's just show you. So this was very sort of rusty looking and awful. So some wire wool and autosol and some rotary Scotch-Brite pads in the drill, and about 7 hours work, and that's what it looks like now. So I'm very pleased with it, but I'd say it was an awful lot of work. Anyway, here goes. So gasket on the front. Okay, try and get a nut started on the front one now. Okay, we've got a nut started on the front one now as well. That's very limited angle we've got on there to get that on. But by Jove, I do believe we have got that on. I think we're happy with that. I think we are happy with that exhaust connected. Remove the rug. Look at that. So of course I overlooked the fact that one of the end can hanger bolts goes into the rear subframe, so need to fit the rear subframe first to fully complete the exhaust. So that's what we'll do next. rear subframe. 3 of these, 3 short bolts. Okay, rear subframe in position. Okay, so it's not the original end can going back on, it's the, if you can see that, it's the Arrow RDO4 Dakar replica end can, which I bought. Saves about 4 kilos, 4.5 kilos on the original one, so that's a win. The only thing I'm seeing different is that where we slot it over the header pipes here, there is no room at all for a gasket. So we're just slipping that on as it is, raw. Now, I don't know how that's going to work out. Okay, so we had a little bit of a jiggle about. Loosened the bolts slightly in the subframe to give us a bit of slack, and we've got both bolts in. So it was a bit of a struggle, but we're there. We're just going to nip these up, then nip up the subframe again, and then fasten the clamp on the exhaust itself. Okay, everything tight, exhaust on, just remains to tighten this clamp on here. So that's subframe on, exhaust headers, exhaust end can, and earlier oil cooler fitted. So we're at the stage now where I'm going to check round, make sure I've got everything fitted that I need to. I'm pretty sure I have, but we'll do a double check. So we'll check the integrity of those systems, and then we're going to start to fill fluids. So fill the oil system, fill the coolant system, then we're going to fully check for leaks on those. And if we're good on those, we'll rig up a temporary fuel system, and then we're going to be looking at trying an engine start. I'm pretty nervous about it. Carburetor's been apart. Is it all good for engine start? We don't know. We may find out soon. Stick with me. Coming up next time. And now what we're going to do is, with that in the off position, we're going to test the starter. Here goes.